You have seen how we can use triggers for enforcing data consistency. Another common use case for triggers is logging changes to the data for auditing. For example, whenever someone inserts or deletes a record, we can log that somewhere so later we can come back and see who made what changes when. So I've attached a SQL script to this lecture. You can download it right below this video. When you open that script, you're going to see something like this. Here we're using the create table statement to create a new table. We'll look at creating tables later in the course. For now, just execute the script. All right, now we should have a new table in this database. Let's refresh this view. There you go. Payments audit. In this table, we have these columns: client ID, date, amount, action type, which can be insert, update, or delete, as well as action date that specifies when this action was performed. Now, this is a very simplified approach to auditing, but it should give you an idea of how we can use triggers for logging changes. Now, back to our triggers. Here we have this trigger, payments after insert. After we update the invoices table, we can insert a new record in our audit table. So it looks like this. Insert into payments underline audit, values. What values do we need to supply here? Client ID, date, amount. Let's pass these. So I'm going to get these from the new row, new.client ID, new.date, and new.amount. Then we need to supply the type of the action. For this, I'm going to pass a string like this. Insert. And finally, for the action date, we call the now function to get the current date time. Finally, let's terminate this with a semicolon. And now let's recreate this trigger. Beautiful. I'm going to make a similar change to the other trigger. So let's copy these two lines for inserting a record in the payments audit table. Then we go to our other trigger called payments after delete. And note that in the script, we have the drop trigger statement before the create trigger statement. So we can recreate it, okay? Now, let me zoom out. So after we update the invoices table, then we insert a new record in our audit table. Now in this trigger, we're dealing with a row that was deleted. So we need to replace the new keyword with the old keyword, like this. And instead of insert, we're going to use delete. So this indicates that a row was deleted. And here we have the values of the row that was deleted, so we can recover it later. All right, now let's recreate this trigger as well. Beautiful. Now I'm going to create a new payment, insert into payments with these values. Default, 5 for the client, 3 for the invoice, 2019, January 1st for the date, 10 for the amount, and 1 for the payment method. Execute. Now, let's take a look at our audit table. So now we know that at this date time, a new record was inserted into this table, and here are the original values. Now we can create another trigger that will get fired after updating a payment. Now let me delete this new payment. So back to the payments table. What is the ID of this payment? That is payment number 11. So let's delete from the payments table where payment ID equals 11. All right, now back to our audit table. Let's refresh the result. We have another record here that tells us at this date time, a record was deleted, and here are the values for this record. So this is very powerful. Now, once again, I've simplified this audit table so you better understand how we can use triggers to log changes. In a real-world application, you may want to log changes in many tables. So in that case, you shouldn't create a separate audit table for each table in your database. That's very repetitive. Instead, you need a general structure for logging changes, but let's not worry about it yet. Later in the course, when we talk about database design, you will learn how to design general audit tables. So this concludes our discussion about triggers. Next, we'll look at events.